What's up, everybody? Welcome to Political Sanity, episode 16. So, yesterday, yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. The, excuse me, RFK Jr. announced that he was suspending his campaign to join, not to join, but he was not, he's pulling his name off of the ballot in battleground states to basically battleground states that won't hurt Trump in the election, but he's going to remain on the ballot in certain blue states. He gave a great speech. I believe it was in Arizona yesterday. Very articulate, didn't read off a teleprompter. Just genuinely seems like a good dude. And I didn't know much about him when he. I always thought the Kennedys were kind of like a mythical family after JFK and RFK Sr. They And then I knew about Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife. But none of them really seemed real to me until more recently. I don't know. I guess I just didn't pay attention to politics back when I was younger because they've been in the spotlight for quite some time. The Kennedy family, uh, but so I believe he went through a couple. So RFK Jr. more recently has been appearing on podcasts, doing more interviews since he started his campaign. I believe I watched him on Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, which is a comedy podcast, but they had RFK Jr. on, and he went over what his policies were, where he stands with foreign conflict, foreign affairs. Basically, kind of told his story, the whole brainworm thing or whatever it was, and he kind of seemed like he made sense. He wasn't like a modern day 2024 Democrat or 2020 and later Democrat, where it's all leftist ideas, Marxist ideas, socialist ideas. Again, I'm trying to remain as unbiased as I possibly can. It's tough though when you have a certain way that you think about things and you try to remain biased. It's tough. So last episode, so anyway, continuing with the update. So he gave a speech in Arizona. Basically said he was suspending his campaign. He appreciated and thanked everybody who got signatures for him in states to remain on the ballot. Really just seems like a good dude. And then he said that he was suspending his campaign. And I believe there's talks of him joining the Trump administration as the health secretary. So basically Dr. Rachel Levine or whatever her name is, that position. And he said he was going to look into vaccines. He's going to look into, what was it? Basically getting America healthy again without processed foods. And there's just been like social media, like the media has just blown up since then because people are bad mouthing him. Apparently, there's some sort of an allegation that he sold cocaine at Harvard when he was younger. Some guy's coming out saying that now, which I find that a little. It's not hard to believe. The thing that people seem to the thing that people seem to not understand is that no matter who you are, if you're running for president, whatever position in Congress you're running for, if you're running in politics, you have to understand that these people are all human and they make mistakes and they have flaws. And RFK Jr. has admitted that he was a heroin addict. He admitted that, he's saying that, he's living a life of recovery now. But there's a ton of allegations coming out now that, he cheated on his wife with 37 women in 1 year. He was a freak because he was a heroin addict. And it's Now, the whole drug dealing allegation. Now, I'm in recovery for methamphetamine. And not methamphetamine, it was everything, really. It was everything I was using. And to make ends meet, to get my next fix, I dealt drugs. I did. And I ended up, getting caught doing it. Not doing it, but some form of it. And it's not an uncommon thing if you're a an addict. It's not uncommon to be a dealer as well. It's kind of a normal thing, really. Because it consumes so much of your time. That drug consumes so much of your time, your energy, your social skills, your social life. It consumes every single aspect of your life. Addiction doesn't discriminate. It takes anybody out. Doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. It doesn't care about any of that. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor. It'll take you out. It's just a chemical. It's also a genetic thing. It's a disease, but it's also a genetic thing. If you come from a line of addicts, it's in your family somewhere. It's there. It doesn't have to be drugs either. It doesn't have to be alcohol. It could be overeating. It could be fitness. It could be anything. Really, you can get addicted to anything because a lot of people who get into or live lives of recovery, they cross addict to something else. Whether it's work, whether it's fitness, whether it's, like I said before, whether it's fitness, taking care of yourself, whether it's eating, whether it's a hobby. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Things are good in moderation. Point blank. So, RFK is under fire for some straight bullshit right now. It's ridiculous, the amount of things that he's going through. People saying he's not a real Democrat, that his uncle would be ashamed of him, that his father would be ashamed of him. Mia Farrow actually went on X and said, I knew RFK Sr. very well, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be ashamed that his son has turned his back on the party or whatever. But if these people actually took time, instead of talking all this shit, if they took time to listen to his speech in Arizona and hear exactly where he's coming from, the things that he went through with the Democratic Party, partisan courts. So partisan means like you're a biased court, basically. You're biased to one side. So a lot of these judges that he went and talked to, or went and testified or went to court hearings with, were known Democrats, and they automatically left him unread, basically. And it's not a fair justice system. A lot of us know this. But he went into detail and said, like, this is not the party that my uncle and my father were involved in. This is something completely different, and they're fighting censorship. They're fighting people who are. One thing that really stuck with me that he said is censorship. Excuse me. People who censor things like speech, free speech, don't censor things that aren't true. They only censor the truth. And he's a great environmental lawyer. But it was a great speech. And he brought up some great points. And then he was at Trump's rally last night in Arizona. And Trump's under fire with the Foo Fighters thing. He used the song My Hero when RFK Jr. came out. And that was badass when he came out to that song. That was cool. Whether they let him use that song or not, I think REM went through the same thing with Trump back in 2020 or 2019 or something like that, when he used some of their songs and they got pissed about it, like, oh, you can't use my song. I wrote it for everybody, but not the people that I like. So Foo Fighters are basically getting the Bud Light treatment from conservatives, which is nonsense. They're not going to apologize to you. like Dana White said about the Bud Light thing when he took on Bud Light as a sponsor for the UFC. He said they're not going to fucking apologize to you. They are a multi-million-dollar company. They don't owe you shit. And that's like the Foo Fighters too. They're a multi-million-dollar band. They're not gonna apologize for endorsing who they personally think is a good choice for president. You shouldn't have to apologize. And you shouldn't boycott someone. Like, I like the Foo Fighters. I like their music. I don't care. You have to separate the artist from the art. And that's something that a lot of people can't do, especially with Hollywood and music. I don't align politically with a lot of the musicians that I listen to, or the actors that I watch on TV, or the comedians that I enjoy hearing their jokes. I don't align with people politically, and that's okay. You don't have to agree on everything. You're not supposed to agree on everything, because if you do, then you're an idiot. But you're not an idiot. You're a yes man or a yes woman. You are a yes man, basically. If you agree with everybody on the same thing. So let's get into it. What did we talk about last time? We talked about Harris's policies, and I dove into them head first. Not head first. I just kind of read them off, and I'm going to be doing the same thing with Trump tonight, and I'm going to go into it. I'm going to read about things. We're going to go by bullet point by bullet point. We're going to talk about it. And the thing is, I'm not trying to sway your guys' vote. I've already told you, if you know me, if you've listened to this podcast, you know which way I lean. But I feel like I want to be somewhere in the middle. I don't want to be so far right that I'm extremist. I don't want to be so far left that I'm an extremist too. I would like to be somewhere down the middle. I like limited to no government involvement with everyday life. So it's libertarian type of mindset, but I'm sort of a right-leaning libertarian. I realize I got my directions backwards when I talked about that. But getting into it, Donald Trump is running. This is his third time running? No, he ran back in the 90s, didn't he? Or late 90s, early 2000s, excuse me. So this is the last. I feel like this is going to be his last time running. This will be the last time he'll do it. And I don't think he can run for another term after this one. I'm not quite sure on that. I don't know how that works. I've looked it up. I don't think he can. But things could happen. We never know. So he's running alongside J.D. Vance. I think J.D. Vance is from Ohio, I think. He's been under fire, too, about some remarks that he's made. Look, the thing is, this is what I wanted to say about... I said that I kind of briefly touched on this with Kamala, too. Don't vote for the character of the person. Okay? You vote for the policies. You vote for what's best for our country. You don't vote because, this person makes me feel good about myself. This person gets me. I don't relate to Donald Trump at all. I don't have that much money. I will never see that much money in my life. And that's okay. I don't care. But one thing I do respect about him is when he won in 2016, I was at a different point in my life, and I was like, he's just a celebrity. He's not gonna, if he wins, it's rigged. I said that because I thought, well, if he's a celebrity, he just bought his way into it. And then I heard about some of the things. The wall was the big one. The wall was the huge one. We're gonna build a wall. I was pissed about it, but I'm not so pissed about it now. I think we need it now. But he said, we're going to build the wall. We're going to deport. And every single promise that he made, and then oil drilling too, within our country for gas prices. And every single thing, and this is something that I have to respect, and I said this back when I was in my addiction. I was at the end of my addiction when he was running, or when he was president for his first term. And his only term, actually. He hasn't won a second term. But the one thing that I told people that I respected the most about him is he stuck to every single thing that he said he was going to do. That takes balls, okay? Some people just tell you, and this isn't just now, this is in the past too. Candidates will tell you, oh, I'll do this, I'll fix this, I'll fix that. It's all empty promises. He did everything he said he was going to do. It's a big deal. It shows honesty. It gives elderly people a sense of relief because back in the day, there were no such thing as like contracts. It was like handshake and your word. That was bond. It wasn't, oh, let's fill out all these papers, let's get litigation, let's get lawyers in here and do all this paperwork and figure this out. No. Ludicrous. So we're going to get into his policies for 2024. Donald Trump's presidential policies covered a broad spectrum of issues, reflecting his campaign promises and governance style during his term from 2017 to 2021. Here's an overview based on his actions and stated intentions. So the first point is economic policies. Trump focused on tax cuts, particularly the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which aimed to stimulate economic growth by reducing corporate and individual tax rates. He also emphasized deregulation, arguing it would boost business activity. Like I said, guys, I don't know anything. I'm just reading. I don't know what any of that means. So we can go look up the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Bear with me one second. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2017. Summary. Perfect. Key takeaways. I don't know if I trust this. It's Google. I don't trust Google, guys. I don't know if you guys do. I don't. I just don't trust them. They hide a lot of information from us. Okay. So key takeaways. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was the largest tax code overhaul in 3 decades. The law created a single flat corporate tax rate of 21%. Many tax benefits to help individuals and families will expire in 2025. So that'll expire next year. It reduced statutory tax rates at almost all levels of taxable income and shifted the thresholds for several income tax brackets. You guys might be tax experts, but it's like I'm reading a different language. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act on a different website. The act to provide for reconciliation pursuant to Titles 2 and 5 of the concurrent... I don't know what the hell that means. Tax cuts. Let's just leave it at that. Flat rate 21% tax cut for Was this for corporations? Is that what it said? Sorry, guys. My mind's all over the place right now. But a lot of the same websites are saying it's going to be done in 2025. I don't know if that's subject to change. I'm sure it's just when he implemented it. Could read the pros and cons. I guess I could get a different opinion. But then a lot of it's leftist media stuff, so I want an unbiased sort of opinion. Dang it. That's not giving me the answers I want. So the law created a single flat corporate tax rate of 21%. 21%, it's on the lower end out of 100, so that's good. It's below half. Again, I don't know. Tax cuts are always good. If it's for families, that's great. But boost business activity, emphasize deregulation. Okay. So that's economic policies. I don't know. I think the economy was doing pretty well under him. I know there's speculation that he printed off the most money uh, with $1 trillion deficit and put us into debt, and that caused inflation now, but I don't know how true that is. I'm not an economist. I don't know. Trade. This is the next bullet point. Trump's approach to trade was marked by protectionism. He initiated trade wars, most notably with China, by imposing tariffs on a wide range of imported goods. He renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA, United States Mexico Canada Agreement, aiming for better terms for American workers in the industry. So in a way, he created more jobs. If you think about it, that's what it's saying. He created more jobs by basically not stopping imports from China, but lowering them really, because a lot of the things, when you go and buy a product in America, how many times does it say made in China? My phone, made in China. Okay? We can't make our own phones. This laptop I'm on, probably made in China. This microphone, probably made in China. This thing, I think this is American made. I don't know. But, and then on the flip side of that coin, you have Biden, who created 14.9 million jobs. What were those jobs? They've never listed them. Getting off track. Going on a tangent here. So the trade was cool. I think that was cool that Trump did that. He basically wanted things to be American made again, and we need to be self-reliant. But he did that with oil. We were no longer, I don't know if we were no longer getting it from the Middle East or wherever it was coming from, but so that's trade. Immigration. This is a big one. Okay? And you guys know my views on immigration and where I stand with it, and because I come from a line of immigrants where they came on visas and they worked and then they went back home and they came back in the on season. So immigration policy. One of Trump's most controversial policies was his stance on immigration, including attempts to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, with the implementation of policies like Remain in Mexico and significant reductions in refugee admissions. He also aimed to end birthright citizenship, okay? Though this did not materialize due to legal complexities. So the birthright citizenship thing, that one's been a thing for a while. If you're born here and your parents are immigrants, like you're a citizen automatically because you've been born here, which that makes sense, I think. You can't control where you're born. You don't really have a say in where you're born. No one has a say in where they're born. No one. Not even me. But so I've watched a couple interviews from, I can't remember the gentleman's name. He was a Border Patrol agent for like 27 years. He went on Theo Vaughn's podcast and talked about the difference in numbers of people coming through now illegally under Biden's administration, and then he contrasted it to Trump's administration and the differences. Like there's a lot of problems with like trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, smuggling, you name it. People coming through just to work, gang members coming through, which are usually bringing drugs, I'm sure. Or maybe they're just trying to get a better life or expand the gang. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what's going through these people's minds when they come through here. A lot of it is, I'm sure a majority of it is families coming through and trying to have a better life for themselves. And the immigration process just takes too damn long. It takes about 10 years. But now, under this, so going backtracking a little bit. So what this gentleman, Border Patrol agent, had said, I think his name is Ron Clemens. or Robert Clemens. I can't remember his name. It wasn't Roger Clemens, I know that. But he spoke about sort of the differences that they saw with like rapid DNA testing for, uh, you know, adults who would come through with children. They could do rapid DNA testing and figure out if they are actually related or not, which is a good thing. But then I believe they took that out once Biden took office, or opened the wall, or whatever it is you want to say he did. I think he opened the wall. I think they welded the gates open. They let people come through, whatever. And now we're at the position that we're at. And I'm not saying that America's horrible right now, but it ain't great. I'll tell you that. It's not great right now. It could be worse. We could be at war with whoever. But we're doing a money war right now. So the differences are astounding. And I believe when I talked about Kamala's immigration policy, she wanted to look more into was it a legal, not a legal way, or to speed up the immigration process, to make it more of a like a shorter process. I feel like I'm just repeating myself. So that's his immigration policy. Does it work? Yeah. The thing is, you'll never stop illegal crossings from happening. They're gonna happen. They still happen under Trump's administration. They rose up quite higher under Biden's administration. We've seen the numbers. We've looked at it. Let's look at the difference in those, and we'll try to figure that out. So Trump administration, not the staff, illegal border crossings. I'm sorry guys, I'm totally not prepared. I just kind of do this as I. This was okay. So this was March 2nd. Oh, so let's just do it from the Washington Post. Or should we do it through nationalarchives.gov? Oh, I'm trying to look for more recent. Okay, so this is WashingtonPost.com. They compare. They do both of them. Son of a bitch. I'm not okay. So I'm not signing up for a subscription. It's ridiculous. This factcheck.org, all that BS. Biden finally got the numbers down. Wait, no, he didn't. He didn't get. I don't know. Again, I'm not being unbiased, guys. I apologize. I have, I have opinions. So this is BBC. This is as of June 4th, 2024. So just after taking office, U.S. President Joe Biden vowed to put an end to what he termed the moral and ethical shame of Donald Trump's immigration policies. The Trump administration had adopted a strict border policy, and the Biden White House promised a more humane approach. Even though the Obama administration built those migrant cages for the children. And I'm pretty sure Biden was a part of that administration. He was the VP. So, but people can change. People can change. They can totally change. So, continuing. Of the hundreds of immigration-focused actions the Biden White House has taken on the file, dozens have been aimed at reversing or undoing the policies of his predecessor. No surprise there. They're both different parties, so why would they not try to fight each other on that? But the Democratic president has faced criticism both from immigration advocates who say his policies are unduly harsh, and from the Republican political foes who says he has not done enough. Who say he has not done enough. I don't know when he went there. I know he's been there more than Kamala has to the border. Here's how the two U.S. presidents compare sending migrants back. What Trump did in March 2020, at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, The Trump administration invoked Title 42, a controversial statute ostensibly meant as a public health measure. The policy allowed U.S. authorities to swiftly expel migrants, including asylum seekers, at the border. So when they got there, if they were captured, they sent them back right away to their home country. They didn't let them in like they do now. The policy allowed U.S. authorities. Okay, I already read that part. Nearly 400,000 people were detained and expelled between its implementation and January of 2021, when Trump left the White House. Even at the height of the pandemic, Title 42 came under frequent criticism from those who argued the policy allowed the U.S. to expel asylum seekers without any legal process. Why do you need a legal process? That's a good question. Why on earth? So think of it this way. You live in a home. You live in a home, and you're just minding your own business, hanging out, having a barbecue with your family, and like a whole, like 5 people come that you have no idea who they are. They try to come into your house to stay. Why would you have to take them to court for that? Or would you just say, get the hell out of here? You're in my house. It might not be a great analogy, but this is our home country. You're an asylum seeker, and people argue, and oh well, we all come from immigrants. Yeah, that was a different time back then, though. Too, there was Native Americans were the ones that were here. And do I think what they did with the natives were wrong? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not denying that. It was a different time, though. Not excusing it. So they don't. That's the criticism, that there was no legal process. Like what's the what does the legality look like? What does that argument look like in a courtroom? Well, my client had it really bad over in their country, and they wanted to come here illegally because the gate was wide open. I You can't bullshit a bullshitter, okay? Anyway, Human Rights Watch, for example, said the policy was illegal and violates the human rights of those subjected to it. Okay, what exactly are human rights? To live? To breathe? A human right is not to just go wherever you want to at any point in time. I mean, yes, we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, but you're coming from a place that doesn't preach that at all. So, again, I get human rights. I understand it. I can't find myself agreeing with that. That they need to have a legal process for that. If you get caught and you're not supposed to be here, you don't get to come in. It doesn't matter what you're coming here for. If you're coming here to break the law, if you're coming here to rape women, no, you don't have the right to be here. Anyway, moving on. Thousands at you, and I'm not saying all immigrants do that or all migrants do that. I'm not saying that that's what they do. Before you twist my words and say oh, he said they were all rapists. No, I didn't. I never said that. I would never imply something like that. But a lot of the headlines we're reading within the last few months and years have been, girls getting raped and murdered. Not podcasters, police officers being beaten up by groups of people and them getting released without bail or bond or whatever. So moving on, thousands at U.S. border as migrant policy expires. Wait. U.S. to open new migrant centers in Latin America. Those are just different headlines. Okay, so we're going to move on to Biden now. So that's what Trump did in the height of the pandemic, and I get it. They were trying to get us to take the vaccine, but then you let all these people come through that don't have the vaccine. And we're supposed to feel safe? I never got vaccinated. I didn't. And if you did, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I stand for medical freedom. You want to make that choice, you do it. I won't do it because I don't think I have to. And it's not because I want people to die. I just don't think it was the right move. If the government's telling you that you need to get a vaccine, no, it's not a reason to get it. Now, if my doctor said, my doctor bullied me into the flu shot once, he used my son as leverage, which I got it. I'm fine. But I'd never gotten a flu shot since, or before that even. Well, I think I don't know if that's one of the immunizations you get. I'm spiraling. I'm going off on a tangent. So let's get to Biden. He defended keeping Title 42 in place, using the pandemic as a justification. So he did the same thing. Over 2 million people were expelled using Title 42 authority between January 2021 and 11th of May 2023. So that's a 2-year thing. That when it alongside the declared U.S. coronavirus public health emergency expired. That's when it, and on the 11th of May, that's when it expired. To replace it, U.S. immigration authorities unveiled a carrot and stick approach that encourages legal pathways while also implementing strict penalties for those who cross illegally. Legal pathways. What does that mean? Like, is that a literal term? Legal pathways? Like, you can cross here? Or you have to come through and get a visa and have an excuse to be, not an excuse, but you have to have a reason to come here to work or whatever it is. Strict penalties, but they don't say what those are. The strategy, let's move on. Let's continue. The strategy included opening regional processing centers in Latin America to help migrants apply to come to the U.S. and expanded to CBP One, an app for migrants to schedule asylum appointments. Okay, so that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Making it a little bit easier for them to come over here. I mean, look, I'm all for it. If you want to come here and you want to work, great. You want to come and make a better life for yourself from Guatemala or Honduras? Awesome. Those countries are shit backwards, dude. Third world, pretty much. Never been there. I've heard stories, though. I work with a lot of people who are from there, and they say it's not great. So I agree with that. That's the legal pathways thing. The strategy included, I already read that. Moving on. A new and long-awaited executive order on immigration unveiled on 4th of June will also allow U.S. authorities to swiftly deport migrants who enter the country illegally without processing their asylum request. So if you don't fill out that paperwork, you're gonzo. You get kicked out. Because you didn't do the paperwork. You just think you can come here and get off scot-free. That's not how it works. That's not how anything works. You don't just get to slide in and reap the benefits. You got to fight for it. You got to do your work. Excuse me. Continuing. That power will apply when a daily threshold of 2,500 migrant encounters is reached. 2,500, that's not a big number. Removals are expected to take place within days or even hours. The rule will not apply to migrants who arrive using legal pathways. Okay? So again, if you do your paperwork and you use that app, you can come through. Notably, the executive order rests on a law known as 212F that allows a U.S. president to suspend the entry of foreigners if their arrival is detrimental to the interests of the country. I don't know if he really utilized that or took advantage of that, because there was a lot of bullshit that went on recently and even before that. The same regulation was used by the Trump administration to ban immigration and travel from several predominantly Muslim countries and to bar migrants from asylum if they were apprehended crossing into the U.S. illegally, prompting accusations of racism. Of course, everything's racist these days. Everything is race. Everything's race or race driven. Those people are called race baiters. So moving on. Um, Making migrants stay in Mexico. What Trump did in January of 2019, the Trump administration implemented a policy officially known as the Migrant Protection Protocols, or MPP, that forced asylum seekers to wait in Mexico for their U.S. immigration hearings. Okay? What's wrong with that? About 70,000 people were returned to Mexico under the policy. That's a big number, okay? 70,000? It's a decent sized number. They were often left there for months at a time and sometimes preyed upon by criminal gangs. That would be a human right, I guess. To not, I don't know, it's a slippery slope. I'm not an immigration expert either. Just have a lot of opinions and a lot of diarrhea of the mouth. Human Rights First. A charity organization estimated that more than 1,500 migrants were kidnapped, raped, or abused after being returned to Mexico. Mr. Biden called the policy inhumane. What Biden did. The administration moved to suspend remain in Mexico on Mr. Biden's first day in the White House in January of 2021. The Department of Homeland Security moved to officially terminate the policy in June the same year. But a ruling by a Trump-appointed federal court judge in Texas found that the administration had improperly canceled the policy. It was restarted in December of 2021. So smart move. Smart move on the judge in Texas. You got to protect your home state, man. You got to protect your home. We don't know. We don't know exactly why these people are coming over here. We don't know. Are they going to tell you? Maybe. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll lie. People lie all the time. In June 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court sided with the Biden administration, ruling it didn't violate proper administrative procedure in rescinding remain in Mexico. The ruling allowed the policy to be terminated. So you're just allowing them to stay here after they're detained. Why are they being guarded? Are they going to stick around for their hearing? Or are they just going to take off? I mean, if they can cross the border without being noticed, well, I mean, they are being noticed if they get detained. But if they're, you know, like basically being caught, or if they're, I don't, what's the word I'm trying to use here? If they're trying to make their way here, unnoticed, undetected, what makes you think they're going to stop doing that? They're going to think they're going to get sent back. But it's like you're releasing them into this country. It's like, oh, here you go. I don't know. So this is the next one is separating families. What did Trump do? Under Trump, the U.S. government had a zero tolerance policy that allowed authorities to deport adults who crossed the border illegally. Zero tolerance. In some cases, parents were deported back to their home countries without their children who were placed in government custody. Seems weird to me. Trump repeatedly defended and continues to defend the policy as a way to deter would-be migrants. At least 3,900 children were separated from their parents between 2017 and 2021. Who built the cages, okay? The Obama administration. Who started the construction on the wall? The Obama administration did. They won't tell you that, though. They don't want to tell you that because that makes them look like the bad guys. Trying to remain unbiased here. Again, I think that kind of falls on the parents because they are bringing their children into a situation where they know whether or not you know this is going to happen, where you're going to be separated from your child. You are putting them in harm's way, regardless. You're doing something highly illegal. You're crossing a border. That's pretty wild. I'm sure it happens all the time, though. Of course it happens all the time. Who's going to leave without their kids? But there are people who do it, too. That'd be like if I tried to cross a border with my children. I don't know if I'd be able to scope it out first, but oh, maybe this doesn't look so bad. It's a risk. Separating families is never right, but putting your family in harm's way is another risk altogether. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing right with it at all. There's no possible way that could work out for anybody. But it does. So I'm just talking out of my ass. And so we're going on to what Biden did when it comes to separating families. Mr. Biden reversed the practice, and some families, but not all, have been reunited. Good on him. While a task force has reunited most families as of April 2024, nearly 1,400 children were still waiting, although about 300 of them were in the process of being reunited or their families had been contacted. In December 2021, the administration also moved to stop holding families in immigration and customs enforcement, so ICE detention. Biden administration officials have noted that the president's new executive order includes exemptions for unaccompanied children and those suspected of being trafficked. The Biden administration has also rolled out family reunification programs for citizens of certain countries, including Honduras, not El Salvador, my bad, Guatemala, and Colombia, who have relatives in the U.S. So you're just letting more people in, basically. Children are innocent. I understand that. It's a true statement. I recognize that. But you're still letting them in. Reuniting families, I get that 100%. But are you reuniting them here, or are you reuniting them back in their country? I mean, you kind of put a dent in it, 1,400. We're still waiting out of 39. Parole. So what Trump did, Trump made little use of parole, where the government allows migrants into the U.S., even if they don't have a visa or can't qualify for one, compared to President Biden. This is a leftist article, okay? This is a liberal bullshit article, but I'm going to continue reading it anyway because it's fun. Instead, his administration led an effort to decrease the number of migrants on parole in the U.S., and in 2018 announced the creation of the MPP program, or Remain in Mexico. Why are you on parole in a country that... Never mind. Okay. It's not your country. Why are you on parole in this country? Again, letting more people in. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Trump has said on the campaign trail that he would end the outrageous abuse of parole by President Biden. Again, I don't know what Biden did. Mr. Biden is said to be one of the presidents rely most on parole, a practice which has existed since the 1950s that has prompted fierce criticism from Republicans and Trump. The use of parole by the Biden administration includes the humanitarian parole of migrants who have been detained, in particular when they are found to have credible fear of persecution or torture in their home country. There are also special targeted parole programs for people of specific nationalities, including Afghans and Ukrainians. As many as 30,000 migrants a month were able to fly to the U.S. legally on parole with a sponsorship under the program for Cubans, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, and Haitians. The administration argues it has helped reduce the crossings at the Mexico-U.S. borders, but it sparked a lawsuit from multiple Republican-led states. The scrap border bill would have kept these programs in place and allowed parole for those in humanitarian need, but broadly speaking, would have restricted its use. So Biden relies on parole. That's not okay. That's not what I was looking for, though. I was looking for the numbers in the... I just want a chart. Illegal border crossings. U.S. Mexico. Um, U.S. Mexico from like let's say 2016 to 2024. Let's see if we can generate a chart. Not generate, but let's see if we can figure out a lot of people say this isn't a crisis either. Oh, okay. Here we go. This is from Stratfor. So, okay. I wish I could post this up here. I don't know how to. But basically it kind of these are monthly apprehensions. So these aren't crossings. These are people who've been detained. Because they can't really put the number. I don't know if they can really put the number on that of if these people aren't being detained. So it fell drastically in 2017. Kind of rose a little bit again, went down again in 2018. It stayed around that 40 to 60,000 mark. It dropped actually in 2017. It dropped down to 20,000 apprehensions. 2018 it rose back up to about 45 or 50,000. 2019 of January 2019 it was about 60,000, and then all of a sudden the monthly apprehensions shot up to 140,000 roughly, and then fell down to about a little below 20,000 in January 2020. This is I had these border crossings by year chart. These are all apprehensions, though. Um, yeah, I suppose that's the only way that they can really figure it out. So, for Mexico, this is crazy. So, in the year between 2019 and 2022, the numbers of Mexican nationals being apprehended is somewhere around like 750,000 in 2022. Lower than that, beneath 500,000. It's from other countries in 2022 are like 2.25 million or 2 point, yeah, like 2 almost 2.5 million from other countries that are being apprehended. So this is a big deal. Like this is if people say this isn't a border crisis, like you're fucking crazy, dude. This is insane. We got people from other countries coming through our U.S. Mexican border. How are they getting to Mexico in the first place? Are they being shipped by their presidents or dictators? Are these all like a lot of these are military aged men that are coming through? Let's get back to the policies though, okay? Shit. I lost it. Oh no, here it is. So, foreign policy. Man, we got quite a bit to go through too. Shit. Um, Foreign policy. We'll try to speed through these. Trump's foreign policy was marked by America First rhetoric, leading to withdrawal or renegotiation of international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal. His approach to NATO and alliances was often critical, suggesting allies weren't paying their fair share. I've seen that video where he puts them all on blast and he says, you guys aren't paying your fair share. We expect you guys to pay us to protect you, and you're not doing it. You're not holding up your end of the deal. So it's like, why are we in NATO still if they're not helping us? Because here's the thing, America is expected to help how many different nations when shit goes south, but when America goes down the shitter, what happens? Do we get do we get help from anyone? No, because we're America, dude. We're number one. We're number one. America First rhetoric. I see nothing wrong with that. I think we should be America First. We got problems here. Home base. We got issues here. We got 350 plus million Americans. More than that, not just Americans, but we have a bunch of people in this nation that are struggling right now. Whether it's from inflation, whether it's from crime, we got some issues here. Whether it's poverty, hunger, drug abuse, a drug addiction. So I agree with the foreign policy. I don't. This is a boring episode, guys. God, we're almost at an hour. So, healthcare. Trump signed the Right to Try Act, allowing terminally ill patients to try experimental treatments. He also pushed for lower drug prices, smart, through comprehensive healthcare reform remained elusive. The Affordable Care Act saw attempts at repeal or replace, but ultimately parts of it were left intact or modified. Again, I see nothing wrong with the experimental treatments. I get that, but a lot of people are doing that stuff now, like the ketamine thing, the microdosing. I don't know if that's for terminally ill patients, but there's a lot of different things you can use, and you don't have to go through big pharma to do it. The Affordable Care Act is great. I don't see anything wrong with people being able to afford medication or health care, being seen by a doctor. Criminal justice. The First Step Act. Moving on. The First Step Act was a notable achievement aimed at prison reform, reducing sentences for nonviolent crimes, and improving rehabilitation efforts. No, okay. The point, you don't want to keep people who are nonviolent offenders in prison for the rest of their lives or for a long sentence. You want to be able to have them be rehabilitated, whether it's treatment within prison, whether it's doing a Rule 25 for a drug offense and um, going to treatment and then just going on probation afterwards instead of executing your sentence. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to keep these people institutionalized forever because they're never going to get better. There's never going to be an end in sight for these for people. And that's one thing I'm very, you know, thankful for in the state that I live in. I was able to do a Rule 25 and go to treatment. Like, I was looking at 5 years and I didn't do it. I was looking at a year, I think it was, and I could have executed, sat 8 months, but I didn't. I decided to go and get my life together and clean up and, just do better. So I see nothing wrong with the criminal justice. That's a good thing that he wants to rehabilitate criminals and, um, things like that. So, energy and environment. Trump rolled back many environmental regulations promoting fossil fuels over renewable energy sources, arguing for energy independence. He withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement, reflecting skepticism on climate change. We talked about this last episode. It takes a hell of a lot more fossil fuels to create a battery for an electric vehicle. It takes graphite. That's a fossil fuel. Just do what we've been doing. Who cares about the greenhouse gases? We're still going to be here in how many hundreds and thousands of years, probably. And if we're not, whatever. I won't be here in 1,000 years. Neither will you. My kids won't be here in 1,000 years. Who cares? But judiciary. Let's move on. Trump's policy included appointing conservative judges, significantly influencing the judiciary with appointments to the Supreme Court and lower federal courts. There's nothing. Of course you're gonna. Of course you're gonna appoint judges who share the same values as you. And then they overturned Roe versus Wade. Checkmate, man. Social issues. Trump's administration saw policies that were socially conservative, including restrictions on abortion funding abroad, transgender military service bans, and support for religious freedoms initiative. I think they're talking about the, the Equality Act that the Trump administration denied. And they did it for valid reasons. I think I talked about this in the last episode. I did, where they did the for the religious freedoms and the maybe that's not what they're talking about. Um, Abortion funding abroad. Yeah, we shouldn't be paying for that. The thing is, if you're in the military and you're trying to go through like transitioning, like what's the point of that? You're not, your head's not 100% there. No offense. I mean, it's just my opinion. I don't think your head's 100% there, and you're not able to serve the country or protect the country. But the religious freedom, you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to kind of go back on your morals and your values that you've been raised up in or you've taken on as a believer or whatever, whatever your religion is. Shouldn't have to compromise on that. So the next one is infrastructure. While Infrastructure Week became somewhat of a meme due to repeated delays, Trump did push for infrastructure spending through comprehensive legislation, though comprehensive legislation didn't pass. Education is the next one. Trump approach included promoting school choice, advocating for charter schools, and reducing federal overreach in education policy. I see nothing wrong with people choosing where they're going to go to school. The federal government shouldn't have any say in where you go to school. But, that's a very touchy subject for a lot of people. And I've heard in the next policy he's going to. This is all old stuff. What the hell have I been doing? Talking about his old policies. Well, it's better than what, because the last episode I had Kamala talking about, or I was talking about Kamala doing what she's going to do. So let's finish this out here. Technology and social media was one that he touched on too. Trump's administration took a critical stance on tech companies, especially concerning content moderation, leading to discussions on regulating social media platforms. Yeah, protecting kids from seeing things they're not supposed to see on the internet. Tech is completely exploiting people, but we kind of do it to ourselves. When you post a selfie on Facebook, how many people do you think are getting your data? How many people do you think are like government officials are like doing facial recognition? Anyway, so for his potential return to the White House, Trump has outlined plans that include immigration, mass deportation operations, expanding travel bans, and stricter immigration controls. No surprise there, because we are kind of in a mess right now where we have a lot of people here that don't need to be here. Economy, continuing with tax cuts, potentially imposing new tariffs, and focusing on domestic manufacturing. Smart. Keep it America, baby. Keep it American made. Foreign policy, aiming for quick resolutions to conflicts like Ukraine, reevaluating U.S. military presence abroad, and focusing on national security with measures like an Iron Dome for the U.S. I heard him talk about that on the X space that he did with Elon, where he's talking about putting an Iron Dome. I don't know what that looks like. How would one even do that? An Iron Dome? Is that like... I think I'm looking too far into it. But the last one is domestic policies. Proposing significant changes in education, advocating for patriotic education, and promising to dismantle what he sees as bureaucratic overreach. So there have been talks about him doing away with the U.S. Department of Education because they just have too much control at this point over critical race theory. Basically, your teacher can tell your kid. Basically, your kid's teacher can tell you, "Yeah, you can transition because you're a little masculine and you're a girl, or you can transition because you're feminine and you're a boy." These policies reflect Trump's overarching themes of nationalism, deregulation, and a strong critique of globalism, which have been both praised for their boldness and criticized for their divisiveness and implementation challenges. So, That sounds good to me. I think that sounds great. A lot of people don't support that. I think it's very dictator like to do the things that he's doing. But again, you compare and contrast. You look at a lot of the policies that I read of Kamala's were she hasn't gone into them in detail, and she still hadn't. The DNC's over, and she still didn't talk about anything. But she gave the best speech they had ever seen, they said. No one even voted for her to be the nominee. But, it's I don't know what's going to happen in November. It's just, you got to do your own research, like I said before. You got to be able to look into things and just be a free thinker, because don't believe everything that the media tells you. Don't believe everything that anyone tells you. Really, just do your own research, or you don't even have to believe what I'm telling you right now. I'm just reading it. That's what I'm doing. I'm reading it, and you can either like it. You don't have to like it. Some people are just voting against Trump because they don't like him. His whole thing, and I'm gonna throw him on a pedestal here for a second. He ran this country like it was a business, because he's a businessman, and we did pretty well. We did pretty well until the pandemic happened, but it's just things are bad now, but they could be a hell of a lot worse than they are. There's so much uncertainty in this nation where we are politically. I wish I didn't ever really get into analyzing politics, because it's tiring, man. It sucks sometimes, 'cause it's like I'm worried about it. I'm worried about the way my kids are going to grow up. I'm worried about my family. I'm worried about making ends meet. Because shit gets hard sometimes, It's not just for me. It's hard for a lot of people. But, if you guys enjoyed this, like, subscribe, comment. This will be probably up, I don't know when this will be. This might be up tomorrow, maybe later tonight. I'm not sure. But, thanks for hanging out with me. Gosh, an hour. It's been over an hour. But anyway, guys, I hope you appreciated this. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys for listening, and take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And don't forget to just, I may sound like a broken record here. Don't forget to just look out for what's best for you. Who cares what other people are going to say? If you say you're going to endorse Trump, if you say you're going to endorse Harris, like, if someone talks shit to you, just, who cares, man? Who cares? It doesn't matter. You can make your own decisions. We're always able to make our own decisions and have our own opinions. That's the beauty of this country. We can think freely, but a lot of people aren't thinking freely. We're living in like a dystopian type 1984 Orwellian time right now. But anyway, guys, I've been rambling on for quite some time here. So thanks for kicking it, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.